Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. My name is Courtney, and I do food and kitchen content. I do weekly grocery hauls, what's for dinner style videos on Saturday, and this is the newest addition to my channel. Recently, I myself personally have started the Mediterranean diet, which is just like an eating plan and a way of life, and I am starting to share that with y'all. I am by no means an expert. I am just a regular person like any of y'all. I've done some research on what I should and shouldn't eat. Mostly it's sticking to more natural foods, staying away from really heavily processed foods, a lot of fruits, a lot of veggies, less on the red meat side, even though I am featuring some red meat today. So this is just kind of me getting going with it. And if you guys are interested in what I'm eating or what I'm doing, stick around because I am already working on next week's video. And I'm even more excited about that one because I cooked what might be my absolute favorite meal of all time. So anyway, this week we're starting off with this Mediterranean feast, really. I do this every once in a while. As a child, my dad taught at a university overseas. He taught English, and I experienced a lot of different cultures and foods, and one of my absolute favorites, and my parents as well, is Lebanese food. And to this day, we still make it at home. So this is me just kind of sharing the way we make it. It's just something that I picked up along the way. It's not perfect, I'm sure, but this is how I roll with it. So first off, we're going to make some kofta. I've got some garlic, salt, pepper, cumin, and parsley, and half an onion in my food processor. And then I'm adding in half a pound of ground lamb and about a pound and a quarter of ground beef. And I know this seems weird, but we're going to process it all together in here. I do process like the parsley and stuff first to get it a little chopped, but you almost want this to kind of come out like a sausage, I guess would be the best way to describe it. In total, I did use an entire pound of lamb and a little bit over 2 pounds of ground beef, and that's what it looks like. It took me 2 rounds in my food processor because it's a smaller food processor, and I'm just kind of mixing both bits together. This has a really great flavor because I put a whole bundle of parsley in this amount of meat, and in total I did an entire onion, and I probably did close to a head of garlic. Of course, I'm using my roasted confit garlic. If I was using regular raw garlic, I probably would have stuck to more like 5 or 6 cloves in total for all of it. Salt and pepper, and then a pretty heavy handful of cumin in here. Then I'm just going to roll it up like this. Now, traditionally, you would skewer it, but I never do just because I can roll it like this into little logs and it'll grill just fine on the grill. Now, you could do this in the oven. You could do it in the air fryer, but I'm going to tell you, like, just straight up the best way is over an open flame on a grill. It has the absolute best flavor that way. But if you cannot grill it, give it a go in the oven, give it a go in the air fryer, give it a go in your skillet and just shape it a little flatter so it cooks better. It's still going to be fabulous and full of flavor. So I like to let the meat just kind of set for a couple of hours before we toss it on the grill, which gives me plenty of time to make the rest of the food. So I'm going to make homemade naan bread to go with this just because we like a nice flat bread with it. You could go buy naan bread or buy pita bread or whatever you would like from your local grocery store, but I'm making it because it's super simple. So I started off with a cup of warm water and I added in a little bit of honey, and then I put in my yeast, and I'll link the recipe for this down below. It's really easy. There's not a ton of ingredients. It's very, very simple to make. I just typically will make it myself, though sometimes I do buy bread from the store if I know I'm going to be really busy. But this is a super easy bread to make, so I really don't mind throwing it together on my own. So once the yeast has gotten all beautiful and bubbly, I'm adding in some yogurt, some olive oil, a little bit of salt, and this is going to be the liquid base for our bread. I'm just kind of mixing that together real quick, and we're going to start adding in the flour. Now, I like to add my flour into any kind of bread recipe kind of slowly because flour usage really varies on the weather and so many other things. So I'm going to start off by adding 1 cup to a half a cup in between each of my mixes. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on how the dough is coming together and how sticky it is. Right now I can tell I can easily add a cup of flour here and there because the dough is still super, super wet. But as you can see now, it's starting to get less wet. It's starting to form a ball. So I'm going to start adding this in smaller increments. That was a little bit under half a cup right there. And you can see it's coming together really nicely. We're so close. But as it mixes, you can see it's still a little sticky and wet on the very, very bottom, so it does need a little bit more flour. I really do advise anytime you're making any kind of bread dough that you go about it this way, just because the amount of flour usage varies from where you live, from what ingredients you're using, the brand of flour, all kinds of things can make a difference. So really slowly incorporate that flour just to make sure you don't add too much in, because you can always add more flour, but you cannot take it back out. And this is the end result we're looking for once I have mixed it and let it knead for a while and added in the appropriate amount of flour. We've got a beautiful dough ball. It's pulled away from the sides. It's not sticking to them at all. This is what we want. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take my little mixer thing out and cover it with some plastic wrap and let it kind of hang out in the kitchen for a little while and rise while I'm doing some other things. It's going to do everything on its own now. It doesn't need me until it's time to roll it out. You can keep it next to your stove, or you can keep it in front of a window, someplace slightly warm. You know, you don't want to put it in the fridge or anything. Once it's had a couple of hours, it really does double in size and get beautiful. And we're going to go ahead and just roll this out. I just plop mine right onto this dough mat that I've got here. It is a little bit sticky, which is fine because now it has had time to kind of like absorb all the flour into the water. And that's perfect because we need to roll out with flour anyway, so we're not going to end up making it too dry. I just plop it out on my board, make sure that I get all of the dough in there, and then I work it for a couple of minutes with some flour in there. And then I go ahead and divide it up into little like portion sizes right there. You might like yours bigger or smaller. Now I'm going to just start here by saying I am not a baker. I do not work well with dough. My bread always comes out perfect, but it sure doesn't look it. It's usually oddly shaped and fun sizes. I don't know that I got a single round bit of dough out of here, which is really what you're aiming for. But whether it's round or square or rectangle or whatever, I think it all tastes great. My family loved it. We ate all of it. So it was a win for me. And as you can see, fun shapes, you know, but that's okay. Once you've rolled it out nice and flat, throw it onto a skillet or a griddle like I have here, and you just want to cook it on both sides as it starts to brown and bubble. You do want some brown spots on there, but you don't want to burn it. Just kind of keep an eye on it. It doesn't take long. I mean, really, I think each piece took less than 2 minutes in total to cook on there. It's really easy to work with, very similar to tortillas. All right, so now we've got the bread done. The meat's doing its thing until we throw it on the grill. So we're going to start with the salad. This is tabbouleh. I love tabbouleh. I make it often just to eat during the week, especially now that I'm doing the Mediterranean diet, because I really like the flavors. It's really bright. It's really fresh. So I've got a whole bundle of parsley here. You can put it in your food processor if you want. Sometimes I do. Today I just ran a knife through it because I really wasn't feeling picky about it. I've got a bunch of tomatoes. You can use Roma tomatoes or heirloom tomatoes. I'm using grape tomatoes just because I think they're easy to work with and I like the flavor. Really is up to you. Whatever you want to use is fine. Just throw some tomatoes in there. I'm just kind of chopping mine up a little bit here. And as you can see, I do like a lot of tomatoes in my tabbouleh. I love tomatoes during the summer. They taste fabulous. Like I can just slice up a tomato, sprinkle a little bit of salt on it, and have that as a side dish with any meal I'm eating during the summer because tomatoes taste so beautiful this time of year. Next, I've got some cucumber. I'm doing like half of an English cucumber and throwing it in there. This is not mandatory. Not everybody puts cucumber in theirs, but because it's summer and cucumbers are in season, their flavor's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and throw some in there because I think they really add something nice. But again, you can skip it if you want to. And then, of course, we've got some onion. It's going to be raw onion in a salad, so I'm not even using half of an onion because it can be super powerful. You could also do like green onions if you want to or something like that, but I'm just working with these today and they worked out beautifully. It's just a regular old yellow onion, just like a little piece of it, maybe not even quite a quarter. And then I've got a quinoa bulgur mix here that I'm putting in. You need some kind of grain. Now, a long time ago, I used to always just use rice. Traditionally, I think bulgur is the grain that goes into tabbouleh salad, but you know, here in the States, that's not always easy to find. So rice is a great alternative. Plain quinoa is fine. And like I said, I'm using a red bulgur quinoa mix that I buy at H-E-B, and it's my favorite. I love it so much. The flavor's beautiful. I just cook it according to the package directions, and then I put it in here. I've got about 1.5 cups of cooked grains total. And then I'm going to add some salt, some lemon juice, a little bit of pepper, and some olive oil, and give it a stir, and your tabbouleh's done. It's beautiful, it's delicious, and it's fantastic. All right, let's make some hummus. This is another thing I make all the time, especially when co-op's in full swing, because when we go to co-op on Mondays and Wednesdays, we're there all day, so I pack lunches, and I love to pack some hummus and some veggies and a little bit of bread to dip in it. Just such an easy and delicious lunch. So I've got a can of drained garbanzo beans. I've got a 28-ounce can. That's what I'm using. And I put in about 1/4 cup of tahini, a little bit of olive oil, some lemon juice, salt, pepper, and if you're using raw garlic, just like 1 clove of garlic is fine, but I'm using my confit garlic, so I did a pretty big scoop of it. Some people put like cumin in here and stuff like that, and that's fine. You can just leave it like I did with just the salt and pepper and garlic and lemon, and I think that's beautiful. And I put it in my food processor for like 45 seconds until it's smooth and creamy. Then I add a handful of ice cubes and let it go for another 45, and it whips it up. and it gets this beautiful texture. So I highly advise you do it that way because it will give you a beautiful whipped fluffy hummus. All right, next we're going to move on to some sauces. This is kind of like a take on tzatziki sauce. So I've got some cucumber that I threw in my food processor. I'm just using the smoothie attachment at this point because I'm not making a whole ton of this. Put some lemon juice, some salt and pepper, and a little dash of cumin, and a little bit of dill. Sometimes I put mint in here if I have some. I don't have any today, so I just went with the dill. This is not a traditional tzatziki. This is just kind of like a take on it that goes so beautifully with this meat that we're cooking today. I mean, absolutely just a stunning flavor combination. So I'm going to put in some yogurt. I've got about 1.5 cups of yogurt in there. And then I'm just going to let this go in my food processor. Now, you could just grate your cucumber in there and not put it in the food processor and it comes out thicker. Sometimes I do that. Today, I am just putting it in here because I'm feeling lazy. So it makes a nice liquidy sauce. It just pours right over the meat and it's perfect. But if you want something thicker with a little more texture, I really do advise mincing or grating your cucumber and just mixing it into the yogurt. The final one that we're going to make is another yogurt dip, and I was missing an ingredient, so I've got a bunch of cilantro in there, and usually I will throw a jalapeno in there as well. And then some salt, some pepper, and some lemon juice. And then I add in my yogurt. And this one has a little bite to it because of the jalapeno, and it's got this bright freshness because of the cilantro. It's really, really delicious, and I love this one, especially over rice. Oh my gosh, it is so delicious over rice. But sadly, I had no peppers, no poblanos, no jalapenos, so I just did the cilantro. It still had a beautiful, beautiful flavor. But if you don't like cilantro and you want to kind of try a take on this spicy yogurt sauce, just replace the cilantro with parsley, and it will still be really, really good. Just don't forget the lemon juice because you want that brightness. Makes this beautiful creamy green sauce. I love it, like I said, on rice. I just think it's so bright and beautiful. All right, the last thing is babaganoush, which is an eggplant dip. This is actually like, oh my gosh, I love this. Since I started the Mediterranean diet, this is like the 3rd time I've made this just because I can eat this with veggies. I can eat this with pita bread. I can eat this 6 million different ways, and I love it so much. So if you've got an eggplant, you can roast it in your oven. Just like put it under the broiler and let it kind of blister and stuff for a couple of minutes per side and get soft all the way through. Or you can do what I did. My husband fired up the grill to cook the meat, so I had him just throw 2 eggplants out there as the grill was getting going and just kind of roast them for me, and it just gives this extra hint of beautiful flavor. Now, on their own, eggplants have a rich smoky flavor, but if you throw them on the grill, it gets even more incredible. So I really love it when he has the grill on and I can throw these out there just because it adds an extra layer of flavor that I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy. Once that's done, you just want to remove the eggplant meat from the skin. The skin is totally edible, but it kind of has like a weird texture for a dip. So I always just either peel it off or scrape out the insides, whichever way I'm going about it. These were super hot today, so I am just scraping out the insides. And once I did that, I put them in my food processor. I added some garlic. If you're using fresh garlic, 1 to 2 cloves max because it will overpower everything so much. I'm using my confit garlic, which by the way is always linked down below so you guys can make it. It's my favorite condiment in the kitchen. So I just add in a scoop of that. I add in some lemon juice for a little bit of brightness. Of course, we want some salt and some pepper, and then some tahini, which if you've not used tahini, it is just sesame seed paste. Think peanut butter, but with sesame seeds instead of peanuts. And I add in, a pretty generous amount. It helps to make this smooth and creamy. And then we're going to add in some olive oil. So when we whip this up in the food processor, it comes together to form like a really nice whipped dip in here because that's what we're going for. We want it to be creamy. Now, if you are a texture person, and when I'm only making this for myself, I skip the food processor and I just mash this with a fork in a bowl like guacamole. But my family likes a nice smooth creamy dip, so we're doing this in the food processor. So keep in mind, you can do it different ways if you want to, especially if you're going to throw it on like some pasta or chicken. Keep some texture in there, just mash it with a fork. But for bread and dipping, either way is fine, and my family likes it smooth and creamy, so we're making it smooth and creamy today. And once it's taken a ride in the food processor, it comes out beautiful and creamy, and it's so delicious and so rich. This is one of my favorites. If you're looking for something to use eggplant with, that's the perfect thing to do with it right there. But next week, I will have another absolutely amazing eggplant dish coming at you next Sunday, so stay tuned for that too. And here's the whole spread: the grilled meat, the bread, the sauces, the dips, the salad. I ate this for days because it really is all, it's made off the Mediterranean coast. Lebanon is Mediterranean food. So delicious. My whole family loves this one, and I hope yours does too. All right, so I'm making this lemon pesto for this, and we're using it 2 different ways. This lemon pesto was so fabulous. So I am starting off by mixing some parsley and some basil in my food processor, a little bit of both. Typically when I make pesto, it's just a basil pesto, but we're switching it up today and it's half parsley and half basil. And I've got to say, I absolutely loved this. Another thing that I never put in my pesto is lemon juice. I always just do basil, Parmesan cheese, olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper, some garlic. That's it. But for this, we're doing the parsley and the basil, some lemon juice, some olive oil, walnuts, which I do put nuts in my regular pesto. We're using walnuts, which are really nice and beautiful. I love walnuts so much. Adding some salt and pepper. And this also called for miso paste, which I was a little like, wow, I've never heard of that in pesto before, but I'm not going to go without it again. It adds something really nice to it. And then in place of Parmesan cheese, I'm using nutritional yeast. It has a really great cheesy flavor, and it also has nutritional value. So I've been swapping that out for seasonings and salt and Parmesan while I've been doing the Mediterranean diet. But you just give this a spin in your food processor and it makes that sauce right there, almost like a dressing, which is kind of what I'm using it for today. So if you'll recall, if you watched my What's for Dinner videos, I did make flatbread pizzas for my family. They had like pepperoni and supreme pieces and stuff like that, but for me, this is what I'm having. So I've got a piece of stone-fired naan that I bought in the clearance section at the grocery store. You can use any kind of flatbread that you want or make your own. It's totally up to you, but I threw this down on my baking tray and I topped it with some fresh tomatoes. They're just grape tomatoes that I diced up. And I've got whatever toppings you want, really, but I'm going veggie heavy. I've got some onions, I've got the tomatoes, I've got 2 different kinds of olives. Those are some Spanish olives because I like that zip and zing that they bring in there. And then I've got plain black olives. I've also got some bell peppers. If I had had mushrooms, they would be on here as well. Let's see, pepperoncinis would be another great addition if you want something with a little bit of zing, or pickled jalapenos. Things like that are always fun. So I just kind of piled on the veggies. Anytime I make myself pizza at home, this is what it looks like. I pile on the veggies. I'm not a fan of pizza sauce. I really am not a lover of pepperoni pizza, as when, you know, in my younger years, of course I was, but as an adult, I love a big old veggie pizza just piled high with the vegetables. If I had thought of it, I would have thrown some spinach on here too, because I love some spinach on pizza. The way it gets a little crispy on the top, if you put it on the very top, is just fun. And then instead of regular mozzarella, I have this stuff, which is like the whole milk mozzarella, I guess is what it's called, the buffalo mozzarella. But I am just, you know, kind of crumbling that up and placing it on top. This stuff is so good. I love it so much. I use it a lot for caprese salad, which is just kind of a nice side that I can throw on anything that I'm eating. Today we're just throwing this on our pizza. I've never made pizza with this type of cheese until today, but it was so good. It is definitely different. I mean, it's not like your regular shredded mozzarella and provolone, but I really enjoyed it. It has such a rich, creamy taste to it. I think it's fantastic. But there's my pizza, and I baked it, and then I just poured some of that lemon pesto on top. Oh, it was magical. This was so fantastic. You've got to try it. I absolutely loved it. So next I'm going to make an Italian farro salad. So this is the farro right there. I hope I'm saying that right. Is it farro or farro? I think it's farro. I'm just going to cook it according to the ingredients, and I'm using this mushroom broth, which, by the way, this stuff is fantastic. Very clean ingredients too, so it's great to use right now in the Mediterranean diet. As you can see, it doesn't have any of those weird additives, and it has so much flavor. So I'm just going to make the farro with the mushroom broth according to the directions. I've got some broccoli right here. I'm going to put some garlic oil on it. That's my homemade garlic oil. It's in the video for the confit garlic, and a little bit of salt. That's it, going in the air fryer. And I just made a caprese salad, which is mozzarella cheese and tomatoes, mixed it with the farro, and put that pesto sauce on top. Oh man, it was magical. I love that stuff. All right, recipes are down below in the description box. I hope you like this one, and join me next Sunday because I've got more recipes coming. And oh my gosh, the eggplant recipe next week is amazing. I can't wait to share it with you. So I hope to see you all there. Have a great week, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.